Good evening and welcome to the Authentic Jo Show. This is episode number 3, and I'm so excited to be here this evening. And even though I may not seem excited on the outside as much as I normally am, I am definitely excited on the inside. This week has been very interesting for me and very interesting for many of us. I don't know if you know, but I live, St. Louis is my hometown, and I had a plan for this show, you all. I had planned, I was listening to Bishop T.D. Jakes the other day, and I was talking to my producer, and I said, boy, I'm all lit up. He had a sermon called Favor Ain't Fair, and he was talking about favor ain't fair, and he was talking about it, and I thought, oh, that was awesome. And then I said, well, maybe I'm going to talk about faith and favor and how that works. And, very optimistic. This was Sunday night. And then yesterday, we had a tragedy. We had a gun shooting here in St. Louis at one of our local high schools. And I personally know the principal. She's one of my sorority sisters, actually, and some staff there and things like that. It just touches close to home in every single way, literally and physically and everything else. And so I said, well, how can I do a show about that? And then I was talking to my wise friend, and it was like, you know what? That's what it's about. That's what faith is about. So I called the show Faith Under Fire on purpose. I want to acknowledge what happened. Central Visual and Performing Arts High School, what happened there in the St. Louis Public School District. And I'm not going to make this a serious show in the sense that we're going to focus on the tragedy and the trauma, but I do want to acknowledge the tragedy and the trauma. And if you don't know, 2 people were killed by the gunman. He was 19 years old, had graduated last year from the school. And a student, a 15-year-old student, and a 61-year-old teacher were killed. And I believe I'm not sure, 6 to 8 people, other people were injured. The number is a little shaky in terms of the exact number. But I will say that I read some reports on Facebook because I'm friends with some of the relatives of people who were affected by what happened, and I took some screenshots. And so while I was certainly upset about what happened, I'm going to read something that's kind of traumatic, and at the same time, we're going to talk about where this comes under. Because faith under fire, let's think about it. Fire cleanses, right? Fire can take away things and it can cleanse. And fire can also be an emergency and destroy everything in its path if it's not contained. And then when you say faith under fire, so that means that if you're under fire in an emergency, you probably need some faith to get through. And what about if you don't get through or another person doesn't get through? What happens then? I'm going to read something. I'm not going to say who it was, but one of my Facebook friends posted this yesterday during what happened. And she said, my baby called me from the classroom when they were shooting. She said, Mommy, I'm scared. I love you. I don't want to die. Please come get me. I heard shots. I told her I'm on my way. You are no longer going to die. I prayed. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Moments later, her classroom was evacuated. I was scared, and at the same time, I was proud. I was happy that mother in that instant went directly to where she places her faith. And she said, this is going to work out. And she stood for her child. And we hear this a lot, but we hear so much tragedy and we hear so much negativity. And I just wonder, how many of us are where we're placing our faith and what we're doing, because life is hard and we all have problems. Every single day we have problems. And so we have trauma, we have triggers, we have drama. And at the same time, if we keep focusing on those things, then, okay, I'm sorry. I got a note from my producer. If I'm not seeing it in those things, then what do I do? And I'm going to say, whatever you think about, you bring about. So let's talk about that. Whatever you think about, you bring about. So if we're walking down a dark alley together and we're about the same height and we're walking together, we're just walking. And you're thinking, I'm going to get attacked. I'm going to get attacked. I'm going to get attacked. And I'm thinking I'm protected. I'm protected. I'm protected. You're more likely going to get attacked than I am because your thoughts are about getting attacked as opposed to being protected. Now, what does this have to do with what's happening? Well, in society right now, the laws are not supporting protection. They're supporting individualistic Texas style, everything and anything goes, and it's not protecting the very people that we should protect, our children and others. There were 67 shootings this year so far in schools, and the gunman had 12 cartridges of 30 high capacity cartridges. And as I said, I think 9 people were physically wounded and 2 mortally wounded. And so we can say that was horrible, and somebody has lost their child and their grandchild and sister, brother, and somebody's lost their grandmother and their wife and their mom and all these things. And at the same time, back like 5 years ago in Las Vegas, I drove through the crime scene when that mass shooting happened. Right after it happened, had no clue, was clueless that I was being driven to the airport, on the way to the airport, in between the gunshot stopping and all of the emergency officials getting there. So we could have gotten shot in that car, and the Lord protected us. And I had no clue about what happened until I got off the overnight flight the next morning and found out. And it was so eerie. And I was just like, I don't know what's happening, but I hope everything's okay, because I had never seen the Strip dark. And I wanted you to think about when you might feel darkness and what needs to happen, because if you stay in the darkness, nothing ever comes to light. So when we're having these fearful thoughts, these angry thoughts, these hurt thoughts, when we're worried, we must change our position, the way we think and the way we feel, in order to create something new. So I want to read a definition of faith. There's several of them, but I want to read this short part real quick. I don't want to lose anybody, but just stay with me. And I'm not talking about church. I'm talking about faith. Faith is more than mere belief. It is the very substance of that which is believed. It works by love. Thoughts of condemnation, enmity, and resistance must be released and divine love declared. Then faith will work unhindered. So when we're mad, we got to turn to faith. When we're mad, we got to turn to love. When we're hurt, we got to turn to love. We got to get rid of all that stuff and acknowledge what's going on, but get to where we want to get to. We have to look to the other side. It also means that you don't want to keep on asking for the same thing over and over again. You want to ask for it and expect it, and then be in a state of, this is going to change. And at the same time, you can't just say, well, I prayed about it, so now it's going to change, because no, these things are going to keep happening until somebody stands up and does something about it. So I just want to say that this show tonight, I don't intend it to be something that we talk about all night. However, we have put the links in Facebook and the links in YouTube. And if you want to talk more about that, you are more than welcome. My buzzer is going off. I don't know if you all can hear that on the computer. Sorry about that. Anyway, so here we are. And today is about faith under fire. So what do we do when we're at our lowest? What do we do when we feel like we can't do anything else? Well, we have to think about, where do we exhibit faith? We do it every day. Like, your car. When you go out to your car, if you have one, you take your keys and you have faith that your car is going to start. You have faith that it's going to get you from A to B. You have faith that it's going to be in the driveway or wherever you park it, right? So you probably have faith in people, and you probably have faith in the chair you're sitting in right now, and you have faith in the technology you're using every day. But what about when things go wrong? Then all of a sudden we're lost and we're confused, because we put our faith in the things and in the people or in the material things, but not necessarily in our being. This week I've been under the weather, as I mentioned, and one day I had an eyelash in my eye, and it was bothering me so bad. And I had other things going on. You might hear it in my throat right now. I had other things going on, but this eyelash was hurting. And I was like, it was just a bother, a tiny eyelash. So we forget how our body works, and eyelashes are not supposed to be in our eyes, right? But our bodies work such that we don't even have to worry about how we're breathing most of the time, or that our blood is pumping through our veins, or that our heart is beating. And so we take so many things for granted. But when our backs are against the wall, what do we do to get from where we are to where we want to go? We have to change our thoughts and place our faith in something greater than us. So if you have just joined us, thank you for joining us for this today, Faith Under Fire. That's the name of the show today. And please join us. The link is on Facebook and YouTube if you would like to join the live stream. If you have a testimony about faith, if you have a testimony about a time when you thought something wasn't going to work out and it did, I'd love to hear that today. We need to hear it. Excuse me, I was supposed to turn my cup the other way. It's supposed to say Jo Lena on that side. Okay, sorry. Let me get another sip. Okay, so here we are. I want to tell you a little story, and then we do have a guest in. I'm so excited. So we're going to get them. So I have a favorite gospel song, you all. I don't know if you've ever heard it. And the chorus is, Jesus is my doctor, and he writes out all my scriptions. He gives me all of my medicine in my room. And if I could sing, I would, but I'm not going to do that to you tonight. It's a story of a family. They were driving down south, and the kids were in the car. The son was in the car. His mother was in the car. There was an accident because there had been a storm. He got into the accident. Everybody was okay except him. And there was a little white house across the road. And so the grandmother said, go over there and see if you can call the doctor. So everybody went over to the house across the road, and the kids knocked on the door, and there a white lady answered in her little white house. And they said, ma'am, can we use your telephone? We want to call the doctor. And then she said, okay, come on in. So they called the doctor and then somebody answered and said, he's not in, he's out on his rounds. And then the little kid started crying. And the white lady was upset, and he was still not doing good. So the grandmother made her way across the road. She knocked on the door. She said, ma'am, can I come in? Do you have a closet? And the lady said, I have a telephone. She said, I understand, but I don't want a telephone. Do you have a closet? And the lady was like, yeah, I got a closet. So she went in the closet, and then she started praying. And she said, Jesus is my doctor, and he writes out all my prescriptions. He gives me all of my medicine in my room. And so when she was in that closet, she was singing and she was praying, and she was praying to the Lord, asking him to save her son and asking for the doctor. So Jesus was her doctor. And then all of a sudden, there was a knock at the door. And somebody went to the door. The little girl went to the door, and the man said, hi, I'm the doctor. I was out on my rounds, but the storm got me. Can I come in? And then all of a sudden, the little children got happy. The white lady got happy. They were singing and they were dancing. And then the grandmother was just happy. She was happy and she was full of joy because she had known that she needed the doctor. And the doctor sent exactly what she needed, which was that doctor, but the bigger doctor, who was the Lord, had brought her. And I wonder if you have any of these type of stories. I think we probably all do, but do we recognize them as that? In the face of tragedy, what do we do? Do we just cry, or do we pray and cry? Or do we stay in that situation? So I think we have two people in the room here. And let's go with Rodney. Can one of my producers let Rodney in the room, please? Because I can't click on that little thing. Hi, Rodney. How are you?
Hello. Can you hear me?
We can hear you great. Thank you.
Awesome. What's going on?
Well, you came to the show today, and you see we're talking about Faith Under Fire. So do you have a testimony that you'd be willing to share about a time when faith helped you through something? Maybe one?
Well, Jo Lena, we go way back. There's a lot of testimonies that we've shared and been able to really help each other get through a lot of tough situations. And so I can just really kind of go back. And by the way, everybody, I'm from St. Louis as well. So, my condolences to the families that are going through this and that have lost loved ones and they're going through all their trauma there. I mean, it's absolutely amazing to, you see it, around the country, but then when it hits home, it's like, man, that's incredible, right? So it's hearts are heavy, but let's try to keep this kind of light. But let's talk about that. Faith Under Fire. So what are we currently going through right now? Let's talk about what I'm going through right now. And I was going to, talk about some other things, but let's talk about what's happening right now. Faith under fire. So, um, you know, our youngest child is getting ready to leave home, and we were prepared, my wife and I, to be empty nesters. And so, we're getting our lineups ready for the next 3, 4, 5 years of travel schedules and plans and these big old things that we got going on, and just make some grand plans. And unfortunately, this year, her sister passed away on August 28th of this year. And
Your wife's sister.
my wife's sister, yeah.
Yes.
And so now we are raising her child, who just turned 10, but who's also physically challenged. So we have some issues with that. I'm gonna tell you, start anger. Yeah, I was angry. I mean, I was very angry because of the fact that now my life completely changed. My wife and I, we sat down and talked about it, and she was, just as upset. However, we knew things had to be done and taken care of. Here is where I always say to couples that are going through something like that, communication, number one, faith in God and putting God first. But let me tell you, let me get the backdrop of all this. When we built our house back in 18 going into 19, we weren't looking for the house that we have, right? We were looking for a smaller home because we knew that we were getting to the point of being empty nesters, and we wanted to have this large home to maintain. So as we got to the builder says, "Hey, I tell you what, we'll give you, I know you're looking for a 3-bedroom, that's cool, but we'll give you a 4-bedroom, media room, game room, all these things for the price of a 3-bedroom."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm like,
okay. Now that's favor. Okay.
I'm all over that, right? I'm like, yeah, absolutely, right? So,
Yeah.
You're going from now 2,600 square feet to 3,500 square feet for the price of 2,600 square feet. Bigger backyard, the whole line. Absolutely. I'll wait. Did all of that, got everything ready to go. And if I could have had a chance to really sit down and have that conversation with God can be funny sometimes, right? Because he's really playing that trick on me, right?
Right.
So I'm thinking, okay, I got this extra bedroom, I'm going to entertain, I'm going to have all these guests, so on and so forth. Well, not knowing that extra bedroom was preparing for this young girl that we were going to raise, right?
Yes.
So I had to look at it in a positive standpoint of view of saying, okay, great. I could be angry and I could be mad. However, we have the space, we have the means, we've traveled enough, we've done a lot of the things. Now let's really be unselfish and raise this child the best that we can and still keep our marriage intact. Will it be tough? Yeah, but that's the faith part that comes along with that. But I had to just kind of reflect and say, wow, this was actually being planned, and God's throwing these little things at you. Like, I'm showing you what's getting ready to happen, but you don't see it yet until it happens. And you're like, wow, I see the evolution of where we are right now. So that's kind of the faith under fire for me, is understanding that if God didn't open those things up to me as we were going along the way, I think I would remain angry and remain bitter. Mm-hmm. But seeing what was given, now it's expected to give back in return. So
I think I hear provision. I hear forgiveness, letting go, replacing anger and bitterness with love and compassion.
Absolutely.
Okay. And is it easy though?
No.
Okay. And does it take some time?
Oh boy,
it takes doing it over and over and over again and refreshing your mind.
Oh, trust me, and yes, you do. And your faith has to be strong because it comes back. It doesn't go away. I mean, it comes back. The frustration does come back.
Yes.
And then you say, okay, but what's the bigger picture? Why am I here? I'm here for a reason. I'm here for a purpose.
Yes.
And I have to stand on that purpose and stand on that faith in order to move forward. And have that open line of communication with my wife to make sure that we're on the same page to move things forward. Without that, it won't work, right? Yes. But no, is it easy? Absolutely not. Does it change your life changing? Absolutely it is, right? But you have to, And it would be extremely selfish of me to have these young girls living in my house and I'm not participating in raising her. Does that make sense? If I'm just here, I think that would divide us even more.
Yes.
In our household. So yeah.
Well, as a man, I'm so happy to hear you say that, because oftentimes, we see women, and women will go to church and women pray and women talk about faith, but oftentimes men don't talk about faith, and Black men especially. And I mean, I don't want to get into church because I think church is a whole nother issue.
Sure.
But I'm glad to hear you say that, because when people say, oh, you're supposed to be evenly yoked or evenly equally yoked, I think, I've had 2 failed marriages. Okay. And so my prayer has been, Lord, send me a man who loves you first, so he's capable of loving me.
Right.
Because me is not easy. Me is dynamic. Me has a lot of issues, just like every other me. Okay. So it's like, hey, I need somebody who's capable. At least if I know he loves you, then he might be able to love me. And I think that's where we kind of go wrong sometimes, is if someone doesn't have faith, that they have faith only in their job or in their bank account, or in their past, and are not willing to kind of process and say, you know what, where can I grow? Where can I learn? Where can I put my thoughts and my feelings, and keep on going back to that as faith grows? So I see faith as a muscle, as you will. Someone made a comment. Their question to Rodney: what did your child who was leaving for college think of your decision to take on this added responsibility?
That, you know what, that's a great decision. And you know what, I'm glad that question was asked, because I actually sat him down and I asked him that question. How does he feel about it? And then he said, well, I'm okay, but how do you feel about it? How can you, and I said, wow, son, thank you for sharing it with me. I was like, it's kind of difficult to raise another person's child, especially, my sister-in-law has passed, but the father is very capable and still living and moving around this earth. And I've had numerous conversations and been in person with them. It's extremely difficult to sit next to someone and you're raising that man's child.
So I'm glad you brought that up. So that helps us with the source of anger. So people need to understand there's so many dynamics when things happen, and it's not just one-sided. It's so many things that can be coming at you at one time, and you have to try to navigate and still be a nice person, and navigate and still be agreeable, or navigate while you're working through your own inner turmoil.
Absolutely. So when he asked that question, I just shared with him, hey man, it's tough, it's difficult. However, to whom much is given, much is expected in return. I shared it with him. I was like, son, we have no choice. We have to, even though her father is he's here, he created her. He's maybe not the best position for her to be with him. We have to, we can provide the best position for her, and we gotta raise her.
Okay. Well, very good. Well, you know what? I commend you on your decision. And, many people wouldn't do that. And at the same time, she needs you. And, I just have to believe that, the Lord ordained this to happen. Like you said, just like, that you got that bigger house for the same price as the other to make room. And so you didn't have to move. You didn't have to do anything. All you had to do was just open that room. And I'm so sorry for you all's loss. And I'm so proud of you all for making this decision. Mr. Bob Dabalina also said, oh, you know him?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't know him.
Oh, okay.
I never mind.
Okay. Well, he said this is a profound lesson and example for your son. I agree with that. Yeah. Well, Rodney, I want to thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing this. And I'm glad that, from a man's perspective, you were willing to do so. And I just wish you all the very best with this. And I'm sure that provision will continue to be made. And I'm sure that as you all continue to pray together and work together, somehow it'll be easier. And, what I can say about the father who's choosing not to raise his daughter, perhaps he's not equipped to raise her. And I'm not making an excuse, but perhaps he's not equipped. Sure. And so for her highest good, maybe she needs to be with you all. And so maybe in that, especially because, she has special needs, in that, when you see her resting safely and comfortably, that that's what you all are supposed to be doing.
Mhm.
So, all right.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for supporting the show. Thanks for being
Absolutely.
on. And
Great show, by the way. Hey, I
oh,
love it. I love it. Great show.
thank
Great show.
you.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.
Okay. See you soon.
All right. Bye bye.
All right. Bye bye. Can you all take Rodney out? I can't click that button. Sorry. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Well, that was great. And we actually have another. I'm so excited. We have another guest tonight. Can you put that guest in, please? This is awesome. Sunita, hi. Oh my gosh. You look like one of those pictures from the 80s when we used to do those reflective pictures. So we need your side profile over here.
Yes, I'm
Nice
in my car. I hope y'all can hear me well.
Yes, we can hear you. If you can turn it up just a little bit, maybe I can still hear you. But if that's the loudest you can get, it's okay.
Let me see. Is that any better?
That's better. That's great.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I was leaving a networking event and I'm in my car, so forgive me.
It's okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on. You know, Sunita, I have admired your work over the years and your commitment to spreading the word about things and living your best life and just being an example to women of different things that you're an example of. So tonight's topic is faith under fire. What would you like to share?
It is so interesting because Rodney and I have a similar connection in a special needs child. Oh. And so my granddaughter, when you talk about faith, Jo, when you talk about, I have never had the type of faith I had when my granddaughter came into this world. I was living in Oklahoma, having a successful business, and I had this journal. I had this green folder. It was my 40 when I turned 40, right? Okay. And the two things that I did not want was to come back to St. Louis or to have any more children. Okay, those are my two things in my 40 book. Okay,
hold on. So how long ago was this? Because
I'll be 49 in a couple of years.
Okay.
But my granddaughter's 12.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not in a couple of years. I'll be 49 in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
But my granddaughter's 12. So this is really 12 years ago. A little over 12 years ago.
Okay.
And so in this book, those are my two things. And then I'm living in Oklahoma, working with my girlfriend. We have a successful leasing company, and I get a call, and it changed my whole life.
Okay.
And so on the 4th of July, my daughter called, and she was like, "Oh, Mom, I don't know, something's going on." And I was like, "Okay, well, you know, what's happening?" And she was like, "The baby's not moving like she used to." And so she talked to my mom.
This is when she was still pregnant?
Yes.
Okay.
So this was in 2010. So she talked to my mom, and my mom was like, "Well, you're due in a couple of weeks, so maybe she's just snuggling in. So, you know, just relax." But the next day, my daughter knew. She said, "No, son, she moved a lot. She knew the baby moved a lot throughout her whole pregnancy. And so for her not to be moving, she knew something was wrong. So she went to the emergency room, and that was on July the 5th. They had an emergency C-section, had to take my granddaughter. On July 6th, I was on the plane the next morning. And I haven't been back since. So the two things that I did not want to be back in St. Louis and to have a child, because she might as well have been mine. My daughter was only 20 at the time. So to be a young mom and have a child born with a disability, and the doctor telling you that she's going to basically be deaf, dumb, and blind, and you trying to figure out, you know, how to manage that. Now, in my family, and the reason that it was so traumatic for us, because in my family, we don't really have anybody with disabilities. You know, we have a couple of people that, you know, that disability to the point where they have to be fully taken care of. And so going through this, if I didn't believe in God then, or if I didn't have faith then, I did. Sorry about that. If I didn't have faith then, I did after that. Because I hadn't cried so much. Have you ever cried to the point where you're still crying, but there's no more tears?
Yes.
Like there's just nothing left. But
Tanita, do me one favor. Your mouth, give it a second, because something happened with your audio and it wasn't aligning with your mouth. So let's just, now it's better. Okay, keep going.
Okay. And so I cried so much, but I had the faith of a mustard seed. I had to stand in the gap for her. My daughter was distraught. She couldn't handle it. She didn't know what to do. And so when they took her, she...
Okay. Sunita hopefully will be right. Okay.
Yeah. Of all the times that somebody will call me, of all the times,
It's okay.
and the person that's calling don't ever call.
That's the devil.
Okay? Let me tell my story, devil. Get off my back. Okay, is everything good?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
And
so they took her. That's where you were.
yes. So they took her. It was emergency C-section. She was clinically born dead. It took her 3 minutes to breathe. For them to even get her to breathe, it took 3 minutes.
Okay, hold on. And how far along was she when this happened?
My daughter was a week out. She came July 5th. She was due July 12th.
Okay, and then did they know? Okay, so I guess in the story, tell us what she was diagnosed with once you get to.
Okay, so my daughter had a healthy pregnancy through the whole time. She did all the right things. She stopped eating fast food. She didn't eat no seafood. She didn't drink. She don't smoke. She did all the right things. She was born with cerebral palsy.
Okay.
And when we went to the neurologist and they gave us this CAT scan of her brain, and he was just telling us all the things that were damaged. He literally circled her whole brain. Like, all of this is just damaged because she was not getting oxygen to her brain. And they told her that if she would have waited any longer, she would have had a stillborn baby.
Wow.
And so when I say faith, I was like, I don't understand how you would bring us this far just for her to die, and I didn't believe it. I didn't trust it. I didn't believe it. And I would just whisper to my granddaughter, when I say she was born dead, they had her hooked up to every machine. She wasn't breathing on her own. She wasn't going to the bathroom on her own. Nothing was functioning. They had her hooked up to everything. But slowly but surely, through prayer, I had someone that I trusted very dearly come up to the hospital and pray over her. The father, as Rodney was saying about his relative's father not being there, he couldn't handle it. He left the hospital, not being a part of the situation. I got on that plane, one-way ticket. My girlfriend, she was supportive, but she was calling like, what are we going to do about the business? I'm like, I can't. I don't know.
So you left the home and a business.
I left my home. I left my business. I was renting a home at the time. And the people who were renting it to me, they were calling like, are you coming back? What are you doing? It was just so much going on. But the faith of me believing that she can't, you didn't bring her this far just to die. You didn't do that. You didn't do that. And so I would whisper to her in her ear, the baby, I would whisper to her, I need you to breathe. I need you to, start using all of your organs. I need you to come through. And slowly but surely she was coming off. And my mom would say to me, and I haven't gotten emotional about this story in a long time, but my mom would say to me, she said, keep talking to her because she hears you.
Ooh.
Keep talking to her because she hears you. And so while she's hooked up to all these machines and they got her on cold packs and they trying to, get her, to get, all of her organs and things functioning. And I would just tell her, you got to fight. You got to come through this. And slowly but surely, she's coming off of everything. And then the last thing was a feeding tube. And they wanted us to give her a surgery to put a feeding tube in. And I said, no, y'all not cutting on my baby.
No.
She's not getting a feeding tube. And they said, well, we can't let her leave the hospital without something.
Okay.
She wasn't swallowing correctly.
Okay.
And I don't know if people know about cerebral palsy, but cerebral palsy works on the brain where the nerves in the brain are not feeding the brain to tell the brain to function. So it's not telling the brain to breathe, to tell the lungs to breathe. It's not telling the brain to tell the esophagus to swallow. It's not telling the brain to tell the bladder to, go to the bathroom. And so the last thing that she had was her feeding tube. And they wanted to give her one in her belly. And I talked to a girlfriend of mine who worked with people who had these type of disabilities. And she's like, that's not good. She's like, it can get infected. All kinds of things can go wrong. And I said, well, no, we're not giving her the feeding tube. They said, well, we have to do something. They put one down her nose. They said, we have to send her home with something so we can feed her because she's not swallowing properly. They put one down her nose. She ended up going home. And when I tell you, she said, I don't need this. Because you know how babies move around. And she took that tube and snatched it out her nose and she didn't need nothing since. She hasn't needed anything since. And so when you talk about faith, when you talk about just believing, man.
Okay, so I was taking notes. You said, I whispered in her ear, I need you to breathe. I need you to use your organs.
Yes.
And your mama said, keep talking to her because she hears you.
Yes.
Think about if you as the grandmother are doing that, what is God doing for us?
Girl,
is he not doing the same thing? If you as the grandmother, I need you to breathe, baby.
Come on.
I need you to use your organs. I need you to use your eyes.
Yes.
I need you to use your ears. I need you to use your heart. I need you to have nourishment.
Yes.
And to be healthy. I need you to be infection free. So grandmama said, no, y'all aren't cutting on my baby.
Y'all ain't cutting on my baby. No. No, y'all not cutting on her.
Okay, and so I'm glad you said, and then you also said cerebral palsy is when the nerves are not telling the body to function. So when the nerves aren't telling the body to go to the bathroom, to breathe, and to swallow, these things that we take for granted. Look at these things again. And it's like, we're not doing this on our own. When people say, well, I don't believe in all that. Well, what do you believe in? Do you believe in television?
Yeah.
Do you believe in fantasy? What do you believe in? Because I'm not doing anything that I know of, me, Jo Lena, of my little self, to make myself to breathe or to swallow, right?
Yeah, the body it's an amazing organ, because although she has some challenges and she's had to have several surgeries.
Okay.
Since then, although the doctor circled her entire brain and said all this was damaged, he told us she wouldn't recognize us. She wouldn't talk. She wouldn't have a good quality of life, is what he told us. And when that, and it was other Jo Lena, it was so horrible with some of the doctors that were in there. This one doctor, who was probably almost 100 years old, tried to tell us when I die, in my will it says this, and we don't. She's a newborn child.
What does that have to do with you?
What does that have to do with her?
Right.
Okay, what does that have to do? Whatever you got in your will, you've lived your good 90 years. Congratulations.
Right.
And it was another doctor. When I tell you I was sending energy to these doctors, y'all are the devil and get away from my baby. They will walk past that room and turn their head the other way.
Okay, now see, for some people, they're like, well, what do you mean? How did you know? Okay, so let me say one thing. I have one announcement. Evidently, we're not streaming live on Facebook. I guess that's what I'm getting. Oh, it's up now? It's up now? Okay, good. Okay, all right, no problem. Thank you. Okay, so for somebody who says, okay, I get it, you can whisper in her ear, but how can you influence a doctor to walk past her room and not come in? Or how do you know he shouldn't walk past her room that he shouldn't come in? What's that about? How do you even know something like that?
Because the God in me saw the devil in them.
So are you saying that sometimes when you're operating within the God in you, that you repel the devil in other people? Is that what you're saying? So that might be why they don't like you, or they're mad at you.
Come on.
Or they leave you, or they have to turn around. They can't stand to be in the same room.
Because you can't fight God. I don't care who you are. You can't fight God. You can't fight God's will. You can't fight what God has for you.
And tell us why you're crying.
Because although it's still a struggle, my baby is here. She is such a light to so many people. Wherever she goes, she just started a new school, but whatever school she go to, she is a light. I call her my hype girl. You know, when we in the car, songs come on, she's got her little hands up, she's cheering. When she's walking the halls at school, she's saying hi to everybody.
Wait a minute, hold on. What you mean walking the halls?
I mean, what? She's in her wheelchair.
Sorry. Oh, okay. I'm like, she can walk. Oh my God, what?
Sorry.
Like she can okay.
Well, she's in her wheelchair.
When she's rolling down the halls.
When she's rolling the halls. Yeah, when she's rolling in the halls, okay. She says hi to everybody. Everybody is like, she's just such a light. She's such an energy, because that's the God in her. Yes. So whatever her mission is, or whatever her story is, whatever she pulled through, whatever she came through, only thing I had to do was stand in the gap for that, whatever that is, because I don't know. She just turned 12.
Wow.
and she knows who everybody is. Like the doctor said, she wouldn't recognize. She knows everybody. She, she speaks. She has some challenges. I'm not saying that she's fully, recovered. She has some major challenges, but from what they told us she would be,
right,
to who she is,
yes,
it ain't nothing but God.
So, Sunita, how did you? So it's kind of hard for me to ask the question, and we've never had a discussion about this, so I had no clue. Okay.
Right.
How did you know that you needed to get on that plane? How did you know that you needed to tell her, I need you to breathe? How did you know to stand? Because you said a statement that we often hear old folks say, stand in the gap. What happened to tell you that? How did you know?
I knew because she was my grandchild. She's my first grandchild. And there is no love for your flesh, your blood, your bloodline, to see my daughter have her first child. And it's nothing that as a grandmother you want to see more than your beautiful firstborn grandchild. And I knew that when she called me and said, actually the father called and said, well, they had to take the baby. And I'm like, what do you mean take the baby? And then my mind was playing and she had a healthy pregnancy the entire time.
Right.
What do you mean take the baby?
Right.
And when he said that, I'm like, I gotta go. It wasn't a plan. Put some stuff in a suitcase. I got a one-way ticket. I'm at the airport on a red eye. I gotta go. And to know, I knew that my daughter being distraught, there's nobody else there. I'm the oldest of 4 girls. I've always had to have that strong will for my family. My sister made a post the other day, which is so funny. It said the oldest daughter is the strongest man you'll ever meet.
That's funny. I'm the oldest daughter, honey.
Right. And
are you bossy too?
You have to be. When I was raised by a single mom. So in order for her to take care of us while she's at work, I had to stand in the gap for us,
Yeah, for 3 girls, child.
For 3 girls. Okay. And my sisters will tell you to this day, I didn't play about my sisters. You don't play. And so I knew I couldn't play about my grandbaby. So
do you feel like the Lord prepared you?
No.
Oh, no.
No, ma'am. I'm not a religious person. I have faith. I believe in something greater and higher than me. I'm not necessarily going around calling them God. I don't know verses of the Bible. I'm not going to pretend like I'm this, I'm sitting here quoting Bible verses to her. I'm not doing any of that. But I knew who God made me. Yes. I knew God made me strong.
Yes.
I knew I came through all the things that I came through. I knew that I was a believer. I knew that with my own personal fights that I had to fight, I'm still here. And I knew that I loved her unconditionally. And because my love for her was that.
Yes.
And I knew that she could hear me. I knew that, well, I didn't know that she could hear me. I knew that God would give me what was needed for her to hear me.
Gotcha.
And that's all I had was my faith in that. That's all I had.
Well, I think this is so powerful and inspiring. And for whatever reasons, this show, Faith Under Fire, was meant. I have no doubt that the Lord orchestrated it for you and Rodney to both be on and to talk about this, and that it's about children. And Sunita is from lives in St. Louis as well. So we're not going to go back to the tragedy, but I will just say that we do have a responsibility to love our children and to do what we can. And I think a lot of times we take things for granted, and it's, whether it's giving them a bed or whispering in their ear.
Yeah.
And, I just want to thank you for that. Now, you said she can talk.
Yeah, so, she doesn't walk. So we have to do primarily everything for her.
Yes.
So like her favorite, and she has the nerve to be bougie. I just don't understand where she gets that part from. But
maybe from her grandmother. What's your name? What's your grandma name? Because I know it's not grandma.
No, they call me Nanny.
Oh, Nanny. Oh, okay. I'm impressed. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to be Grammy, but she didn't want to call me that. So my mama is Big Nanny and I'm Little Nanny.
Little Nanny.
Yeah.
Okay, Little Nanny.
Right. But yeah, so she's a little bougie, with herself. So there's certain things she won't feed herself. But if you give her some chicken nuggets or some French fries or some potato chips, she gonna use them hands and feed herself that. Okay.
I love it.
Other than that, she just look at her plate and wait on us, like, ma'am, hello.
Well, that is fantastic. Yeah. Well, Sunita, I want to thank you. I know that you have a book. Are you still selling your book? I mean, it's been a while, but do you want to?
Yes, I still have my book.
Okay, can you tell us the name of it and where people can get it if they were interested?
The book is called I Am a Woman First. I'm re-releasing it. You all can go to my website, sunitawells.com.
Okay.
I have another coffee table book, and then I have 4 journals. And so it's really just all about, self-love and women empowerment and understanding the power in loving yourself first for my women. And so I appreciate you so much for having me this evening and being able to share my story. I thought I was going to get through it without crying.
It's okay. But you know what? This is the Authentic Jo Show. Okay. Yes. And if tears are warranted, then tears shall come.
Yes.
And I am just grateful. And I want people to know when I had this concept for this, and the subtitle is Grown Women Conversations. It wasn't just so that it's only women. It's that these are the types of conversations that we need to have. This is the type of conversations that got us here, that our grandmothers had, that our mothers had, that the old mothers had, the church mothers and the elders used to have in order to survive, because life has not been easy. And although things have changed and evolved in some ways, they've devolved in another. And I want people to know that there is a place they can come and get something authentic. There is a place they can come and get something that is going to be food for their soul. That was my goal for this show, because I feel like there's a lot of fluff. But where's the substance? And I'm not saying substance in me, but substance in my intent, and substance to glorify what is good and what can help people to get through their problems every day. So I want to thank you for allowing the tears to flow and for that amazing story. And, I would love to meet her one day, maybe, when she's rolling around. That would be very interesting. And just keep doing your thing. And I have a feeling we'll probably be talking again soon, because I know you have other things going on in your life. So when we have another show, you're welcome to come back anytime. And I thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And I want to leave the audience with this. Just trust yourself. Okay. Trust yourself. We have an instinct that is beyond anything else, and that's the God in you. So when that thing tell you to go right and you go left and you be like, doggone it, I know I should have went right. Trust yourself, because it's not going to lie to you. So thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Woo, you guys. I had some other stuff I was going to say, but I don't even know if I need to keep going. I'm just overwhelmed with joy, because that's what it takes, you guys. I mean, I don't know if you heard me. I think on the first show I mentioned that there were times when I was so upset. I was so heartbroken. I was so hurt that, I wanted to read my Bible, and I couldn't even read my Bible sometimes. All I could do was just hold it in my arms and just cry and just ask the Lord for help. And right now, people are going through, if you're going through financial difficulty, if you're going through a relationship crisis, a job crisis, if you're going through an identity crisis, if you feel like you don't really have something to cling on to the fact that you're still here. I want to tell you a story before I go. And it's about this lady, and her name is Reverend Dolores Francine McMillan. Rest in peace. Can I have the picture of her first? And then we'll take the picture of both of us. And this was back when I lived in Los Angeles, California. And let me tell you what had happened. I had gone, this is Reverend Mac. We called her Reverend Mac, okay? And you see, she's a fancy lady. She used to be a minister up in Chicago, okay? That's her Chicago days, okay? And then I'll take the other picture. And this is her and I celebrating New Year's. We were bringing in the new year. You see all my long black hair before I turned gray, y'all. I was missing my earring. I don't know where it was. And this was her and I, and we were celebrating bringing in the new year, and we had a wonderful time. Okay, we can take it back from there. So what had happened was I was going through a divorce, and I was miserable. And one of my friends, I'll say her name, Renee, because you won't know which one she is. She had told me that Della Reese, you know Della Reese, the former star, okay, she had a church, and I lived in LA, and I was like, okay, and she kept telling me we should go sometime, and we never went. She never called me to go. And so one day I was so miserable, and I had one more last date, and I was just upset, and I was like, and there was a party going on, and I remember throwing on some jeans and a flannel shirt and going to the party. I don't know why I didn't think to call Renee. I don't know if I didn't have her number. I don't know what happened, but I went to that party, and I said, Renee, where is that church and what time does it start? And she said, such and such, gave me the information. I said, okay. And then I was leaving. She's like, well, where are you going? I said, I just came to get the information about the church. And so then she said, well, maybe we could go together. I said, well, maybe we can meet there because I'm going tomorrow. And do you all know, I woke up that next morning and I got in the shower and I started crying. And I remember putting on a black sweater and a black long skirt and some black heels. And it was a sweater, but it was an LA sweater. So it wasn't cold outside, but it was appropriate for church. And I was crying. And I was crying the whole time. I was crying. Tears were coming out of my eyes. And I never stopped crying. And then I got and pulled up to the place. And then I started in the car. I started to get out. I said, God, I don't know what's going on, but I'm not afraid. But I know these tears have something to do with you. But can you please stop me from crying so they don't think I'm crazy when I walk in here? I mean, I'm literally talking to them because I have nothing to lose at this point. So I get out the car, I start walking, and this guy says, your light is shining. I'm like, what is he talking about? So I start walking and I go into the door and I open the door and everybody starts to yell at me, get out of here. I'm like, what? So I went into the wrong door. The choir was rehearsing before church, evidently. Not to be deterred because, sometimes you can be offended by things like this. So I went ahead and I went around and there was a line on the other side. And I had to wait in line. So eventually where I settled in line, I saw that lady, Reverend Matt. And she was bossing people around and she was like, do this, do that, do this, do that. And I was like, who is she? I need to know who she is. And I believe that the Lord showed me my spiritual mother that day. And when I tell you, when I got in there and I sat down and they sang the song and I started crying. But then when they said the name of the sermon is My Claim to My Inheritance, I would start crying now. Tears. And I knew I had an appointment. That was a divine appointment in 1996 to be there, you all. I knew I had found my right place with my right people where I was going to learn things that I needed to learn to help me to survive, to help me learn how to think, what to think, how to function, because I knew I was here for a purpose, but I wasn't sure what it was. And I knew all I wanted to do was help people. That's all I wanted to do my whole life, help people and travel. That was just what I wanted to do. All I really wanted to do was be the head of the PTA, but I never had any kids. And what's the point of this story? Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Lulu. Lula, excuse me. She's one of my fellow church members. There you go. And so I ended up getting baptized in the church. And I ended up becoming a teacher in the church. And I knew I didn't want to be a pastor because I didn't want the politics of the church. But I knew that it was helping me to think differently. It was helping me to survive differently and mainly to make better decisions because my focus was on what's the best I can do? How can I learn from my mistakes? And how can I call on something greater than me? Because little Jo Lena is going to make stupid choices. But the bigger part of me, the God in me, helps me to make it through. And I want to encourage you today that if you're trying to make it through, concentrate your thoughts on what you want, not what you don't want. Concentrate your thoughts on believing that it can be true. Like Sanita said, she breathed into her granddaughter and she said, I need you to breathe. I need you to use your organs. I need you to use your brain. I need you to use love and trade that in for hate and bitterness and the pain that you experience every day. Whatever you think about, bring about. So whatever thoughts you have, if you're thinking mad, mad has its mind on you. If you're thinking victim has its mind on you. But when you're thinking, I can do it, and you're not relying on just your little muscles, but you're relying on what you know to be true, your intuition, you can make it. But just like Rodney said earlier, it's not that you just decide I'm going to make it and I'm not going to be upset one day and it's over. No, it's just like breathing. It's just like moving your arms, moving your muscles, batting your eyelashes. It means it's a daily intentional walk that you have to choose to do, even when they make you mad, even when they hurt you, even when you're not sure how you're going to get somewhere or where you're going to live. This is not fake. It is faith. So with that being said, I had a few other things I wanted to share, but instead of that, I know I was told that I have at least one question in Ask Authentic Jo, and I did want to just go ahead and address that before we go. So if you could put up the question about faith or whatever it is. I never see these questions in advance. I never know what we're going to talk about. So we'll see. I'm getting them like you are. Oh, I love that. Does your choice of friends matter to your faith? Oh my goodness. Absolutely. So, let me gather myself. You know how they say birds of a feather flock together? That is so true. So if you're with your friends and they're smoking and drinking all the time, then guess what you're going to start doing? Smoking and drinking all the time. If with your friends all the time and they're whoring and horror mongering all the time, then that's what you're going to start to do because that's what you see. So the things that you watch, like I don't watch scary movies, okay? Because I don't need any more terror in my life. We're already traumatized. We already have triggers. So when you think about who's with you, it makes a difference. And sometimes you outgrow your friends, okay? And so sometimes, when we're little, we all kind of go through things. And then we get a little older and we're in the same place. So maybe we're at college together, or maybe we're at our same first job together, or maybe we're in the same organization together. And then you see, is the fabric of who you are, your morality, is it the same? Do you have some of the same habits? Do you have some of the same interests? You know how it is. You might call that one friend that you want when you're feeling down and you need somebody to pump you up. You call that friend. If you feel like, oh, you want to talk bad about somebody, you call that gossipy friend. And if you feel like you want to go spend some money, you call that one friend to go shopping with. Well, if you're broke and you're heartbroken and they're giving you bad advice, then you need to drop those friends and find somebody else. That's what I would say. So I'm not saying that you all have to go to church together and have Bible study together and things like that. I'm not saying that, but I do think that your morality, your beliefs, where you stand, and your intent and your purpose every day is certainly influenced and affected by the people you choose to spend time with. So choose wisely. And sometimes you can say, I bless you, but I release you. So I claim the exit from my life of all those who are not for my highest good. May they fade from my life and prosper somewhere else. I didn't even plan to say that. Let me say it again. If you want to get rid of somebody, okay, do not say this if you don't want to get rid of them, because they're going to go and you're going to be mad, okay? Now, let me say it again, then I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it. I claim the exit from my life of all those who are for my highest good. May they fade from my life and prosper somewhere else. Now, Reverend Mac gave me that because I was upset about some guy, and she was tired of hearing me pout and cry about it. She's like, girl, just take this peppermint and say this affirmation. I said, well, what do I need the peppermint for? To keep you sweet. So in other words, shut up and just do what I'm saying. That's what she was really telling me. Okay. Now, what I mean by this is you may think that friend A is the one you need to get rid of, but it might be friends B, C, and D. It might even be somebody you're related to. So if you say this affirmation, I promise you it works. So I'm going to say it one more time and you can say it after me. I claim the exit from my life of all those who are not for my highest good. May they, May they exit from my life and prosper somewhere else. Let me say it again because I just got the comment. I just lost 3 friends now. Thanks. Probably so. I claim the exit from my life of all those who are not for my highest good. They fade from my life and they prosper somewhere else. And I promise you, all of a sudden, your light begins to shine. Your love gets a little brighter. Your eyes get a little brighter. Your spirit gets a little lighter. And day to day, it gets easier and easier because that baggage, that darkness is no longer there. And one more thing you may not know, 80 to 90% of most people's thoughts are negative. 80 to 90%. So even if you're a positive person, what if 50% of your thoughts are negative? And then you're walking around with negative Nellies, 80 to 90%. So they're putting that negative energy on you. It's like fiery darts. Faith under fire. Your faith is under fire when you have friends who are not your friends. And then if you don't believe me, go listen to the Houdini song, Friends, How Many of Us Have Them? All right. That being said, I'm ready for my final thoughts. I love that. I love technology. I know I'm old, you guys. I just love it. And this is just so fancy for me. Anyway, my final thoughts. This is a difficult time in life, a difficult time in the world. The United States has a lot of inflation, but so do other places around the world. Europe is even worse than us. And there are wars everywhere. And I would caution you not to take for granted the functioning of every part of your body, from your eyelashes not being in your eyes to your ability to speak. We heard about 2 little girls who don't have all their functions, but they're totally loved and taken care of. And if this uncle and aunts and this grandma could love them so much, don't you think your Heavenly Father could love you so much? I would say don't rely on your little self. Be good to yourself and each other. Be absolute good because you deserve it. If you like what you heard today, please share it. Please like it and share it with others. Please continue to watch The Authentic Jo Show on YouTube. There we go. Yes. Oh my goodness. There's another one. Please continue to watch it on YouTube and please share it. We are trying to build up our audience. And also, please send in comments. The link is in the bio. So send in comments. You can send them to my messenger and Facebook. You can send them by email. Let me know comments and questions for The Authentic Jo Show and for me to answer. And if you want to participate any given week, I would love to have you. Thank you so very much for your time. God bless you. And we'll see you next time.